Right, we're now going to cover the important part of the system. Once the employees have entered their timesheets, this is where we will come and review, edit, approve the timesheets before exporting to payroll. So there'll be a couple of videos in this particular area. So when we come into My Timesheets for the first time, it takes you straight to the processing pay period screen, because that's the most common thing that you will do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So there are 4 buttons in here, 2 of which relate to reviewing the data and 2 of which relate to processing a payroll. And then there is a 5th one which will pop up shortly, where we've posted the data to payroll and we need to unpost it for some reason. So the first button is an important one. It's the lock period. So without locking down your period, your employees can continue to review and edit their timesheets themselves while you're actually in the middle of reviewing it. So if we talked earlier, and I'll just go and show you quickly what that looks like, is that you will see that we have these padlocks on some of these days. So what the padlock does is it locks the timesheet closed so that the employee can view it, but they cannot edit it. So where it is not locked, the employee can still edit that particular timesheet. So if you're thinking about doing your review, we would suggest that you lock down the period that you're reviewing, because otherwise you could be reviewing and signing off something, and then 5 minutes later the employee comes and changes that data. So to lock it down, you simply come into the date that you click on here. You can click on the date that you want to edit. Sorry, click the date you want to lock it down for, and then you save that, and then that immediately puts the padlock on and the employees can't get in. You can still go in and do what you like with the data. It's just that the employees can't. So when we were reviewing our times, there are 2 ways that you can review times. You can come into the review times screen. Now, depending on your settings, this one is set up so that I can see the days of the week going back historically. I can also change in my preferences so that I see my data in employee order. So if I change that now and I go back into my review screen, I can now see the employee, and then when I click on the employee, I will see the days of the week that the employee has worked, and then I can drill in from there into editing that particular employee for that particular day. So depending on what your preferences, and you can change these options without having any effect on the data, you choose the one that you want, and we do suggest that you do try the different options. I tend to prefer doing it in date order, so I'll just go back and put that back into date order, and then employees within date, because I want to sign off one day at a time, whereas if I do it in employee order, then it makes it a bit harder to sign off one day at a time. So I come into my review times. Now I can see the information here of what's been entered. This is the total hours that have been entered during each of these days. If I drill in here, for example, if I go into Monday, the 18th of February, I can see that these are the hours that have been entered by these employees. I can go in and look at Bob's hours. If he's entered a timesheet, he's entered 9 ordinary hours. If I want to go back to my employee list, I can come back and see, okay, well, what did Roberta do? Roberta did 7 hours. Now, if we are using the cost center and job costing options, then you will see that data in here as well. I can see that they've entered ordinary time. Again, if I come back here, I look at one that's got some, I don't have any units on that particular day. So if I go back a day, I'll see if I can find, there's one there with some units. So if I go into Roberta, where she's got some hours and some units, so she's got some ordinary time for an hour. She's got some ordinary time for 10.5 hours, and she's also applied for some sick leave because she needs a break. Now, obviously, she's not longer going to have sick leave and ordinary hours on the same day, but if that's what you chose to do, then you could have them both in the same period. So viewing the data in here is a way for, if you are that way inclined. Not everyone likes viewing data on screen, so if you prefer to review the data in a report form, you would simply go to your reports, go to either daily totals or employee totals. In this scenario, if I'm checking what an employee has entered, I would probably go to the employee's total report. I would then choose the period that I was reporting up to, excuse me, which would be today. If I was reporting over multiple weeks, then I would probably put on the weekly total so I can see what the total hours are. But typically, if you're going to be reporting for a week at a time, if I wanted to just report on one department or a group of employees, so I click in here and I can choose my employees. I can click in here and choose my departments. If I was using the job costing or cost centers, again, I would be able to do those. And if I wanted in detail, I quickly run that report. Try that again. And what it'll do is it opens up a PDF, which I can then download, I can email, I can do what I like with. So you can see here, this is for Roberta Robertson. So on that day, she did 7 hours. So she had one meal money. On that day, she did 1 hour of ordinary plus 10 hours of ordinary, plus she applied for some leave. And then in the second week, she's done 7, 8, and she went on holiday as well. She seems to have a lot of time off, Roberta. If I scroll down, then you can see there's Bridie Nathan's times, where she's entered some of it as start and finish and some of it as hours worked. So again, that depends on your methodology as to what you will see here. You also see the break length that they took in that particular day. So this gives you a breakdown of everything that's happened during the week. It's quite a detailed report, but that's if you're checking, that may be what your preferred method is. Once you've run the report, if you are happy with it, then that's fine, you carry on. If you're not happy with it, you can go into the review times option. You can drill in to the day and say, okay, well, I needed to edit this particular person because Bridie shouldn't have done 10.4, sorry, 5.42. I want to edit that and make it 5.45 or 5.5 or whatever that may be. So you can still come in here and edit these times, edit the data, add something extra. So I can say, okay, well, she obviously she forgot to put in her sick leave. So if I choose sick, and she forgot to put in the 3 hours of sick leave that she should have taken, and she has a cold, and I save that. So now I've got in her timesheet some ordinary time and some sick leave. So I can do things that the employee missed, or I can go and add or edit whatever the employee has not put in, or correct it if I choose to correct it. But once I've done that, then I would come back to my review screen and that would be the data review. So how often you review the data is entirely up to you. So some employers will review it every day, some will review it once every couple of days, and some will review it once a week or once a pay period. So the data is there. The employees will be loading it on a daily basis because that's how their timesheets will be entered, but you can check it and review it as and when you wish. In the next video, we'll talk about processing the pay through to payroll, and then we'll also talk about some reports and exports.